So I have to laugh at myself just a little bit here. I remember when Gunslinger Spawn was announced. I was absolutely excited. I thought this was going to be a great read. And then as I kept buying the issues, I noticed over the years that they just kept sitting in my to be read pile and just sit and sit and sit. But every time I would pull one out, I would get really excited and I'd enjoy it. And I'm thinking to myself, man, why am I putting this off to the side? So I'm trying to make it a resolution to knock that off. This is Gunslinger Spawn, issue 4, and I love this variant cover. Love this organic looking gun with the flashing green, the sunset, just the very much the contrast of the reds and the yellows and the green just brings the whole composition together. So if you want to go check out this book, I would recommend trying to find this cover because it is delicious. Now, before we dive into the story, let's talk about who made this. Print date on it was January 2020. Script and plot by Todd McFarlane. Art by Brett Booth. Inks to it is Daneil Henriques, Adelso Corona, Sal Regla, Jonathan Glapion, Todd McFarlane. Interesting. Colors, Andrew Dalhouse and Ivan Nunes. And lettering, of course, the man, Tom Orzechowski, which I'm glad, as we've gone through X-Men and Transformers from the old school Marvel days, and of course, DC. Love seeing him here in modern Image Comics. It's just like, yes, kick ass. Last issue, which I'll make sure I leave the card up here somewhere. Gunslinger Spawn went against a new character, which I'm hoping we see more of, called Dakota. And I think I said in that review, the way that Brett drew her, she very much looks like Wanda. And I think Wanda is dead because in a thing that for the longest time I thought Clown was gone as well. And I think it was Spawn, correct me if I'm wrong, it's either 200 or 400, one of these two, where Al finally is with Wanda and she sacrifices herself for a reason and Spawn destroys Clown and the Violator. That part, keep in mind, because it is important, because as I was reading this, I got real agitated. So last issue, as Dakota was putting the nails to our Gunslinger Spawn hero, before he could perish, we see the Clown show up. He says, "Get on your feet, cowboy. I like looking into a man's eyes when I'm talking, because I'm about to make an offer that'll get you everything that you want. And whether you like it or not, you're about to become partners with the Clown." And I just love how Tom Orzechowski here is kind of going old school. So as we see the Clown, they actually see this, and even though it's done digitally, at least you feel that homage to old school comic book writing. Now, we've talked about this in several modern books. Read what happens here. We have a text box, and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be the Clown's thoughts, or this is going to be Gunslinger Spawn's thoughts. No, it is third-person narration, which has been drastically missed. My other one that I kind of wish would come back is, of course, the internal monologue thought balloons. I think that adds character without having gotten all these convoluted. So with that said, it says, Al Simmons has collided with this hellish villain dozens of times. But for Gunslinger, this will be his first encounter. I just love how, rather than being shocked or astounded, Gunslinger just says, "Is that so?" Now, I was reading, after I read this issue, I was kind of going through some online reviews, just kind of seeing what other people thought. And one person, I don't remember their name, but they said the one thing that they didn't like about this book is how Clown has these minions now, and it very much reminded him of like the Batman Who Laughs, which I get. But here, this isn't a dark multiverse version of Spawn or anything like that. This is the Violator. And even if you think about it, we've gone over issue 1 of the Violator from way back in the day, and he had those evil brothers. That book was so hard to read, but it was entertaining. So for him to be able to make like creepy little copies of himself, it's not that far-fetched in the world of this book. And here, I love how the Violator just looks like this big, massive guard dog, which goes back to that deluxe version that we went over a while back and why he's so huge compared to the semi-tall, lanky version that we all have grown up with since 92, 91, 92. So he says here, "You know how many men I've seen walk away from their better interests, but you strike me as being smarter than them. And what is it you think I need? Same thing every Hellspawn wants, to return to where? Your home, of course. I can help with that." Now, another thing, I love Brett Booth's work. I think it was a Ghost Rider issue that we went over a while back, and I was talking about how boring the panels were. Like, there was a scene I remember where I think it's Blaze, Johnny Blaze, that we were following in this issue. He goes into this bar, and everything just is like this 2D flatness. Like, it seriously looks like something you would read in like a web comic. But here, even though this is like just dialogue, just kind of this tit for tat back and forth between these two characters, look at how each panel changes, and we go from this kind of wide shot seeing this huge threat that Gunslinger's up against, and then we see Dakota over the Violator's shoulder, and she goes, "He's my target," and then an up close shot of the one eye. "You wanted me to soften him up. That's what I'm doing." And he grabs her throat. "You're taking too long, and don't you ever interrupt me again." So remember how she was kicking Gunslinger left and right. The Violator puts her down easily. "Gotta love her spirit, don't you think? Now where were we? That's right. You and I were about to take over the world," or something like that. "You're being coy, big man. Just spit it out. I'm starting to lose my patience." And even though it may be kind of stupid, I love how we get these very unsettling scenes. And then in the background, we see the little minion trying on his hat. And in this sense, it makes me laugh because it's not detracting from the story. As where, say, you pick up, issue 1 of Bendis's Age of Ultron, the original cover where we have Ultron center, and then everyone's down, and he's holding people down and make sure they can't get back up. Very dynamic, but yet they went around and they did that Scotty Young variant where it was all the little cutesy, oh my god, look at how tiny they are, and it's so cute, and look at the little way that they're fighting over each other on the slide. Who gives a shit? Now, I'm not bashing Scotty Young. I think his art is cute, but I hate when it diminishes something serious. It just, to me, it feels like a wet fart in church, for a lack of a better word. So here, even though it's kind of silly, it adds, because we haven't seen what these minions are going to do yet. So we're seeing them being stupid, and we're like, okay, are they just here to be funny, or what's going on here? Now, let's go back to what I was talking about at the beginning of the book, where I was talking about where we thought the Violator finally died. Because I don't remember seeing him for a while. And then I see him here, and I see him split, and I'm like, well, what the hell happened? It would be nice if they actually freaking filled us in, and I was about to get pissed and put the book away. But he says, "Let me introduce you to someone." He says, "Clown snatches the hat from one of the dwarfs. I'll take my hat in due time. But let me introduce you to my loyal companion, the Violator. He and I go way back. So if you're thinking I don't have ample protection, you'd be wrong." And then we get some really awesome action, and of course the Violator just smashes him down. "On your feet, cowboy. I'm not going to ask again. I'll get up when I'm ready. Got that, fat man?" "As you wish. But let's be clear about something. I'm the alpha here, so stop barking. You're going to be beginning to upset the dogs." And so we go from cutesy to these guys are threats. And I'd hate to have to unleash them, which he does. And then we get to see that they are something else. Clown carefully weighs his next move, knowing Gunslinger is of immense value. But insubordination he won't tolerate, not from someone he considers inferior. A quick lesson must be taught. Whispered is a single syllable by their master. Go. It triggers the true nature of these small hellions. Gunslinger had mistakenly thought that because they looked human, that's how they'd act. And he's about to find out how wrong he was. And so in doing so, it weighs Spawn down some more, which essentially almost knocks him out. And then we get a very, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? Controversial panel. But in terms of the Spawn universe, I mean, if you look at something like this and you're like, that's hard to breathe in, think back to, I don't remember which issue it is, but the one where Spawn basically stabs that big fat guy to death with all the ice cream popsicle stuff, and he's hung in chains. It's, again, par for the course for McFarlane. Now, I'm trying to get to the part that I want to, here we go, where I was about to get pissed off because it wasn't explaining anything. So again, Violator continues, or Clown at this point, because they're two different entities, begins to kind of give some backstory on himself. Don't look so surprised. You're not the only one with necro powers. And you know who gave you those powers to me? Spawn. He thought he figured out a way to get rid of me. But guess what? The opposite happened. As I was being shot into the time rip his explosion created, everyone else was headed the other direction, including you. And I made sure I scraped a little power off anyone that passed by. So that was issue 301. So maybe it was 200. So we finally get to find out what happened to Cloud and how he has these necro abilities. And it was just enough to split my personas into two. So we actually see the little fat clown that we all know slapping into two characters. But you, Gunslinger, may actually be the weakest hell spawn ever. But given you acquired your powers illegally, that shouldn't come as much of a shock to you. No more having to choose attacking as Clown or Violator. From now on, it is Clown and Violator. So essentially, he's trying to show the intensity of what he is now. And the way that they're talking, and Gunslinger Spawn doesn't really get the full picture here. I don't know about y'all, but this brings me all the way back to Spawn number 2 when Simmons didn't really know anything. Like his memory was still kind of scattered because he'd been gone for, what was it, 5-10 years before. I'm going to get his name wrong and y'all are going to make fun of me. Mag Balonga, Mad Baloney, you know, the devil guy. Took his memories away. So anyway, the Clown's saying that we need to team up. I can get you back to your time period. Because you know that you have unfinished business there. You'll never get back home or see anyone you've ever cared for. Spawn can't do it. And Cog or anyone else doesn't give a shit about who you are or your wants. I don't care about it either. But even if you only have one reason to go home, I'm your best hope. And so I love how the panels are just very disjointed, kind of adding to this like cacophony jumbled thoughts that Gunslinger Spawn is thinking about. And he's saying that, you know, I can't betray any other spawns. I'm not going to join with you. But we start to see that he's having some hesitation. And then what I love the most about this book in particular is if y'all remember the early Spawn books where Spawn back in the day, his powers were going to drain after umpteen time. So as this book comes to an end, we get a countdown clock. As essentially the Clown wants this gunslinger to confront Al Simmons. So guys, issue 4. Yeah, there's a lot of dialogue. And I've said this, where if it feels like it's a lot of dialogue and it actually means something or feel like it's going somewhere, I don't mind because you are engrossed in the drama. I hate when it's just like 4 pages of, oh my God, look at this coffee, that coffee is so cute. Oh, you spelt my coffee. Why is the coffee all over the place? Oh my God, we got to have some sugar creams and rainbows and check my MySpace because coffee, stuff like that. It makes me want to rip my eyeballs out. Essentially, kind of like when we went over that X Factor book, and it was, 2 or 3 panels of the guy talking about eating power corn dogs. Yeah. Anyway, we're not going to go back down that road. Gunslinger Spawn issue 4. I'm feeling things building up, and it's definitely worth a read. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is like to get your action figures and comics and grab this series. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you don't mind hitting that fancy little hell spawn bell, next subscribe. That way as I can upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel. And I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. Speaking of, if you enjoy what I do and you'd like to help support the channel, I've additionally left a PayPal tip jar link down in the description. And if not, I still appreciate you stopping by and checking out the video. Either way, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.